Hello and welcome back, and today we want to look at ADM, the Asustor user interface for NAS that comes with your Lockerstor NAS system. Now, bear in mind, although I am utilising the Lockerstor 4 today, it's their new release in the 4-bay RAID series, there are other Lockerstors out there, and particularly the Intel-powered ones and higher. All of these systems utilise ADM that you're going to be looking at today. This is the user interface that you can access via your web browser, over the network or the internet, and indeed there are client applications too. Now I'm going to be going through some of the highlights, going through some of the design, and ultimately critiquing this software as much as I can. I will try not to draw too much comparison to other NAS brands, as I often find myself doing, but I will try to be as honest as possible. Now, this is being utilised in conjunction with the client application, Asustor Control Center or ACC, and this is the device this is the software you use, I should say, to find the NAS on your local area network. There's loads of things it can do. Connect to some of the individual client services, which will open in separate tabs. You can activate things like Wake on LAN and hibernation and stuff like that. Action updates remotely over your network. Connect to the device or start creating mapped network drives or remote connections, and ultimately connect and scan for Asustor NASs on your network. It's a nice little program there. I would argue it's as good as anything else I've seen from any brand out there, and definitely something that gives a little bit extra as well in some of the areas of configuration. Now, if we utilise that app, it will take us to here on our web browser, where we can log into our NAS here. Now, as you can see, it's got the time and all this stuff, and everything you see on screen can be customised. We'll leave that signed in, because we'll be in the NAS for a while. And here is our desktop environment. I've already installed a bunch of applications. I've already set up a RAID configuration, and I've gone through some of the preliminary settings already in my setup video. And what we're going to look at today is some of the utilities and how we go about using it. So, once again, everything about this desktop can be changed. You can change the order of the stuff that you see on screen. You can, again, revert things. You can change things in the background. There's loads of options here at the top that can go into the preferences tab that I really like. This has been added. The ability that you can just automatically flick to those settings up there. Because one of my biggest arguments of ADM the last time I software reviewed it was that a lot of the options seemed spaced out. Even though there was a settings menu here where you could configure the networks, the users, monitor a lot of the background stuff, change, as you see here, LED lights and fan controls, and configure all kinds of stuff. As much as I liked all of this, it seemed counterintuitive to me that the settings menu was here, but there was other options that were still their own tabs. So system information there, as you can see, this is the one we're using with all the network connections, lots of lovely settings there. And you've got lots of background health diagnosis for drives and system. I've always loved this Dr. Asustor thing. I think it's quite kitsch, but it's a nice feature. Same goes for user access control to activate and create new users or export and import users as well. And again, each of these users have their own credentials and file and app access. And you've got the shared folder stuff that you can create within the file manager as well as here, and change privileges for individual users for different applications, and indeed the other way around, what the applications can access. But up here, this lovely option here, I love this, and I want this to be the default, if I'm honest. I do think this one little access control up the top is something that all the other NAS brands could learn from, because this is everything you're ever going to need. And all of these options and how they connect to different file systems and more, it's lovely to have them ready and available immediately here. And all of the key choices are here. Everything from those general options that are all filtered down the side there, but without having to go into them. I still think there's a little bit of work to be done, but the fact that you've got access control and settings and the services and all of those different options in a single menu is far more desirable. So kudos to them for improving that. Now, the activity monitor here, we can add different widgets, which will give us real-time information. Now, this is something I have seen on other brands, but I will highlight that this is a lovely middle ground. A lot of brands that we've seen have either gone too minimalistic or too detailed. This is a nice little line in between, and maybe could afford to be a little bit more detailed, but these can be maxed out to give more information on their individual settings as and when you need them. And again, those that have ever used Android, Mac or Windows systems will be quite familiar with the controls of this. It does seem a bit odd that there isn't a start menu at the top left. I'm not sure who decided that, because your eye is immediately always drawn to the top left on these NAS systems in the past, or the bottom if you're a Windows user. Generally, I always find that the top left is where I'm looking for control. So that's one thing I'm less keen on, but again, that's more of an aesthetic choice for me personally than anything else. The online help section here does go straight into their website, and again, lots of information here. It's presented quite neatly. I don't like that it's an online portal, but I will argue it's still very informative, and it is presented far more graphically and far more intuitively here than I have seen on a bunch of other brands. There's a lot of more graphical information here, and a lot of information about setting the device up right for the first time. I just wish this was built into this firmware and maybe updated regularly. But that's a small thing, and I think having a web portal there isn't the end of the world. In terms of file management, we can have a little look there at the file manager that ADM arrives with. And again, it's kind of what you expect. It's very hard to upsell a file manager. The perfect and the best file managers are the ones that just do what they're supposed to do. This does that. You've got the folder creation there and the ability to create shared folders and different kinds of kind of collateral and kind of different file tools here. And again, you've got virtual options as well, but a lot of those have to be managed from some of those target drive credential stuff. If we go into the backup and restore settings, this is obviously where we look at simple back-end backups all the way through to external and internal backups. It is far more in plain speak than I will say than a number of brands. And I know I've broken my rule like 10 times comparing, but a lot of the other brands fall into a trap where they're quite in love with their own software names, such as Hyper Backup or Hybrid Backup, Sync 3 or Active Backup. And a lot of people lose sight of what those tools are for. So having backup right here, just a lovely option. Maybe they should be focusing more on the word backup, but it's still very, very clear what these all are about managing to do a USB one-touch backup, a cloud backup with a cloud party service. And again, the options are built in there, as well as other options for the schedule and importing existing ones. So although it's a little bit underwhelming and a little less flashy than, you know, their brethren in some of the other NAS brands, it's still nice, and I think it's presented far more direct and to the point here, something that's sadly lacking on a lot of the other brands. Now, in terms of external devices, this is quite interesting because as you connect certain devices, they appear here quite readily. Now, external devices as an option on a NAS GUI is quite well trod as a concept. But again, having it on the top management level here, I think a lot of people that are new to NAS are going to enjoy. It does make it that extra bit user-friendly. And the minute you wrap your head around the idea that a lot of these options are designed to be intuitive, then you stop overthinking it. One of my biggest problems with this system, when I first utilized the Nimbustor series and I was utilizing ADM, was that I kept going into it with the mindset of a more technical network mind. And I kept looking for things and not just seeing them. So I was looking for like an external parameter. I would just need to go to external devices, whereas other brands I'd have to go to hardware settings, hardware connected devices, etc. Whereas this is just external, same goes for backup. And I quite like that. Same with access control. It's all very intuitive, all very, very clear, and says what it's supposed to say, which is quite nice. And it manages to do that while having quite a nice UI. Now, obviously, there's a lot more technical stuff. I do think, even though they are attaching some of these little information portal parts, some areas like services could do with a little bit more explanation, but not that much. I think it's all very intuitive to those that are looking for it. The settings menu we've already looked at a few times. It's all kind of side managed here. I think perhaps probably a little bit more hand-holding for the more new to NAS might be nice. But again, you are buying quite a powerful NAS solution here, so I don't think a lot of people would expect that. Now, this is one area where I really liked the Lockerstor when I was looking at the storage area. Now, the reason I loved this storage area as much as I do is because this is something that both QNAP and Synology, I'm sorry to name check them again, are dying for. Clarity. Both brands have become so obsessed by a lot of the storage options, and again, they do a very, very good job that people that are new to NAS will often not be able to see the wood for the trees, whereas this keeps things incredibly clear. It's very clear what everything is. It's very clear what it does in terms of capacity. You can go into find out more information about the system, about the contents of drives, the file types inside a volume and more. And it's just all so lovely and clear. Now, this is something that DSM-7 is aiming towards, and Asustor have already done it here. So fair play to them for having such a clear storage manager. The more techie-versed might be looking at this thinking, where are all the options? But I don't think this is for you. This is for people that need a nice bit of clarity. Now, eSync Manager is where you run your backups and your synchronized drives and shared drives on different devices. You've got that client app that you can download, the Asustor EZ tool, for iOS, for Android, and there's the desktop client as well. We will be looking at apps. We are going to revisit all of the mobile and desktop apps very, very soon from all the NAS brands. I know it's something you guys ask about, and it's something I try to periodically touch on, and I did about a year ago, and I think I could afford to go into a lot more detail now. But a lot of the synchronizations options here could maybe do, once again, with a little bit of an introduction, but not much more than that. The Snapshot Manager, once again, this is a system that utilizes BTRFS, which means you've got that great background resource snapshot creation system that will make less of an impact on CPU and memory throughout. And snapshots are very, very easy to start creating on your available storage. They can be set up and you can go for historical snapshots that you've created or start creating your new schedule now. It's all quite straightforward, very user-friendly, and exactly what you would want. So those are kind of the default tools there. I've already installed a few different applications in the background there. We've got the video tool that I've installed there where we were looking at a lot of movies and stuff for a video coming up soon about transcoding. On top of that, we've also installed a few more of the photo and music tools as well. NetData, one of the third-party applications. If you do like tech, this is a beautiful application, and I am looking forward to utilizing this tool in a number of performance benchmarks very, very soon on this NAS system, because there's just a huge array of statistical information here. And I'm well aware this is a third-party application, but there's just an obscene amount of information available to us here that we should really factor into its own dedicated video very, very soon. I've already performed the Plex Media server testing on this NAS, but it worked absolutely fine, and we did synchronize it and set the whole device up for a bunch of testing in a previous video. Do check that one out. Asustor Live, for you gamers out there, you will need to create an account, but the system does allow you to start streaming your games library there to those online platforms akin to Switch and stuff like Twitch and stuff like that. So I do recommend you check those out. And again, moving in, we can go into one of the final sections of this video in the App Central. Now, for those of you that watch my videos about Asustor in the past, you'll know that my probably one and only gripe that I have with Asustor as a brand is a lack of overseeing a lot of their application center. I thought it went a little bit out of hand, and there was a lot of third-party apps in there that they have done a lot of tidying, it has to be said. But there's still the odd, like, example, as you see here with Amazon Prime, which to a point is necessary for this application, but I do think these applications are just glorified web portals from when we used them last time. We will be going back into the applications that use HDMI with Asustor Portal on this system very, very soon. But they have certainly trimmed the fat on a lot of those unnecessary applications. There's still lots of apps there, but they've got rid of a lot of the chaff. And what you're left with now is a lot more A-grade stuff. There's still a few little ones that have slipped through the net, but they've certainly cleaned up this App Store substantially. And as you see here, I have already started installing a number of these key applications moving forward. Now, another thing I'm looking forward to looking at is virtualization, of course, because they are one of the few brands that has a VirtualBox on their lineup of apps, as well as Linux tools as well, with the Linux Center application that allows you to download Ubuntu very, very easily. But ultimately, I do think as a platform, ADM has evolved forward and it has become a lot better for it. I do think if you are looking for a brand new NAS system in 2020 and 2021, they're very much a contender now, particularly in terms of their hardware. I think their software, there's a few killer apps that might be missing from that lineup. If we go to categories here and we go to multimedia, for example, there's a few too many categories perhaps here. But if we have a look at some of these apps, installing apps, very straightforward. It's asking us that what it is things that might need to be installed in the background now. We're going to go ahead and install the photo gallery application there during the course of this video. And again, they've got a new beta there as well. So maybe we'll go through some of these in a follow-up video. As you see, unfortunately, I can't install that because there's that back-end app, and that's not unusual. A lot of NAS brands do that. Some of the core applications that require the system to not be utilized. But one thing I hope a lot of you have taken from this video is how responsive this system is. Remember, this isn't a Xeon-powered NAS or anything. This is a NAS that is using a Celeron. Same Celeron that we've seen a few other NAS brands this year utilize. And as you see, this is quite a responsive little NAS. I mean, again, little things you can do. Start zooming in and out with Chrome. You can see that it is immediately snapping to it in that lovely, slightly elasticated way. And there are lots of things we can do. Sorry, I accidentally clicked on the information center there. And again, I do recommend checking out a number of these key applications moving forward to take advantage of the data inside your NAS system. So let's go ahead. We're going to have a look inside. We can have a look at uploading photos to the photo gallery, creating our own bespoke albums, or we can go in and view the albums that are already in there that we've already put on the NAS. We go into the photo gallery over there, go to File Explorer where we install a lot of our data for Plex. Which album did I put them in? Let's have a look. Did I put them in the home library? One of these libraries we put them in. There it is in public. Let's open up a few files and see what happens. So first things first, let's open up one of the files in here. Get that opening there in the background. We're seeing a slight slowdown there. Open up a photo there. It's opening in its own photo manager as well. So we've got that photo open there. Now we'll open a video file. Go for it there. We'll go for some of the test files that we've been utilizing for ages in our Plex videos. Let's go ahead and play that one. And again, we are going to look at music files, but there's a very good chance that with music files, we will be wasting our time the tiniest bit because we're not going to be able to hear them. There. So again, all of these files do open very, very easily. We've got lots of options open to us there. Now, some files at the moment aren't as easy to access. If you go into the App Center, as we saw earlier on, we can see lots of different applications available for opening different file types. And some of them, there are Office plugins and text editor applications, but I've had a look for a while now. We've not seen anything too direct in the form of applications for handling some of the more interesting files for docs, Excel, that sort of thing. But But one app I did see there that was very interesting indeed was the Multimedia application. Let's see if we can find that again. Let's go to all apps and we'll try to find the Multimedia application again. Now this is a lovely application for those who aren't aware that allows you to enjoy your multimedia via your Amazon Alexa via voice activation. Free application, do install it. It comes with a trial, I believe it's £5 a month or something now. Do recommend it. And they're the only brand I know that have got this application ready and available on day one of your NAS. And again, I will almost certainly be doing a follow-up video to this one based on multimedia on this NAS. And at the end of the year, possibly January, we will be revisiting all of these brands and their software and comparing them just like we did about a year and a half ago prior to a bunch of updates. But I've got to say, I am very happy with ADM right now. I do think as a platform, it is the best it's been for a very long time. And it wasn't too bad to start with. It just needed a few little bits of the fat trimming off. And I do think they've done a spectacular job of that. I do recommend you check that out. And as we see here, even the Photos application has moved over to a much more slicker, lovely feel here, where we've got access to those galleries in those bespoke galleries. But I don't like the fact that we can't just add our own existing albums. But we'll have to find out what this application can tell us in follow-up videos. I'm going to end things here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I do recommend the Lockerstor right now. There's that application there. Lovely stuff. And I recommend the Lockerstor 4 for a number of different things, particularly those of you that are looking for powerful NASs at a far more affordable level without having to spend a lot of your money on software that you might not even use. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Click like if you did and click subscribe to learn more. I'll be following this up with a follow-up video soon. And do check that out. And otherwise, visit the links in the description to find out more about Lockerstor, about NAS, and about NAS Compares. I will see you next time.